Hi, my name is Liz Friend and I've been living in the Byron Shire for about 24 years, working and doing various campaigns. I realised that the Airbnb business was growing substantially in Byron Shire, particularly Byron Bay, and that there was a lot more homelessness.
Well, I've been on council since 2016 and right from the start I identified that Airbnb, the holiday letting platforms, was transforming our Shire and not for the better. So we were losing a heap of people. You know, you talk to friends and people in the community and it was really clear that they were being forced out. Landlords were converting their properties from long-term to short-term lets, and this was a growing trend.
I just feel that there has to be a balance between holiday letting and looking after the community. So I started the Byron Deserves Balance campaign principally to support council in keeping the 90-day cap on holiday letting in the residential areas. Might persuade a few people to go back to permanent letting, and that's really the idea of it. Then we raised, I think, 5,826 signatures, nearly 6,000 signatures in the end.
I'm Kate Curry. I'm a councillor on Byron Shire Council, also the founder of Byron Residents Group and a local Byron resident for about 12 years now. I think people seem to think that they can do what they want with their own property, but you don't buy a place in isolation of a neighbourhood or a community. And I think also a lot of these houses, they're being run as businesses. So they're not, you're in a residential area running a business, you're not paying business rates. You don't really have the right to run a business.
So even right now, I think it's something like 40% of all rentals in the Shire are short-term rentals. But we're at a very low visitation rate at the moment in the cycle. So we're getting something like 1.2 million visitors a year. At our peak, we were up to 2.4 million visitors a year, and something like 55% of all of our rentals were short-term rentals. So it's very destructive for our community because your businesses rely on having housing for workers.
We've met you know, a tradie who had masses of work in Byron Bay and was sleeping in his car.
The Suffolk Park Rural Fire Service Brigade is gutted because the people that used to be in that crew, so many of them had to move out of Suffolk because the houses they were renting turned into holiday lets. So this guy that spoke, who's still in there, said, I'm the youngest in that brigade and I'm 74 and there's only 6 of us left. And it's like, and there's nobody coming through because nobody younger can afford to rent anywhere or can even get a rental even if they could afford to rent. And that's the other important point. There's not even, for people who do earn good money, let alone people who are struggling, there's nothing to rent because they're short-term rental. So
there's too many people sleeping on the streets. We've met so many people.
We've seen you know, whole families crammed into a studio apartments. We know how difficult it is for employers to hire people because you know, even council, we struggle to hire the staff we need because there's nowhere for people to live at an affordable rate. And we've actually done some economic analysis which shows that permanent residents provide more economic activity spread more broadly over the whole of the community than short-term letters. So actually, even just thinking in economic terms, forgetting the social terms, economic terms, permanent residents are actually more valuable to the economy than holiday letters.
There's this fundamental crew of artists who would play. When COVID happened, all the gigs dried up and they couldn't afford to live. That was their money to pay their rent. And they literally had to leave and go home, and a lot of them have never come back. And that is so disappointing because you're losing, you know, parts of the fabric of the community that people move to Byron for, but they're not getting supported. So they just have to leave, and so they leave all their friends, their whole group, the whole kind of group falls apart, and then, you know, they struggle to go home. Like, no one likes to go home.
You know, there are streets in parts of the Shire, particularly in central Byron, they're like ghost streets. There's almost nobody living in them. And you can't have a community when you don't have neighbours, you don't have a neighbourhood. You don't know if an elderly lady living by herself has got someone keeping an eye on her, you know, or an elderly gentleman. Or people don't realise the work that has gone into making this place so beautiful. So if you don't have the legacy of people who are going to continue fighting for it, which you won't have if there's nobody who can live here, then what becomes of it?
It's it has really negative impacts, and it really hits your ability to build and maintain a cohesive community that looks after each other.
We're not the only Shire that's affected by this, and other communities are suffering like we are. It's just, I think, because Byron is so popular, it's happening on a bigger scale.
I think just the community spirit is usually really good. But now so many people are suffering. We just want people to care about each other, basically.